Hey y'all, this is Danielle from Black Business Boom and Black Owned Nashville, and we are live with Jeff Flowers, our auto and home insurance expert, and he is going to be answering our questions today. I got a bunch of questions that we've sourced for Jeff about auto insurance, but if you're tuned in and you have questions as well about getting the right policy or whatever other questions you may have around auto insurance, go ahead and drop them in the comments for us, and we'll make sure that we get them before we wrap up today. So let's jump on in. Welcome, Jeff. How are you?
I'm doing good. How about you, Danielle?
I am fantastic. I can't complain at all. I'm excited to be learning some things about auto insurance today. So let's jump on in with
All right.
these questions.
All right. I'm
This one
interested.
is a very simple one, but in general, are auto insurance rates going up? I know I've seen a little increase and I haven't done anything. So is that something, maybe an impact of the pandemic, that we're seeing rates go up for everyone?
Oh, most definitely. Right now, that's one of the things we're seeing in the industry. There it has been an uptick in rates. Now, this isn't true. I don't speak for every company, and I don't speak for my own company as well, because there's certain factors that could make your rates go down based upon certain things going on. But in general, people are seeing a spike in rates across most major insurance carriers because of the supply chain issues. And one of the other things
Oh,
the insurance industry seen shortly after the pandemic was a rise in frequency of automobile accidents. So they didn't understand exactly what may have caused it. May have been that so many people were out of practice of driving so often during the pandemic, or just different type of mitigating factors that may have made the frequency of automobile accidents go up. So that's been another issue. But then just, we're bound by inflation, just like anything else. So the price to replace a car has gone up because most people will see right now it's real hard to get a car. A lot of car lots don't have available cars. Used cars are very scarce right now, so the used car prices have gone up. It's really hard to get repairs and equipment and things like
yeah.
that to replace cars. So all of those factor into making car insurance prices rise. But again, I don't speak for my particular company or all companies, but what we've seen across the industry is there has been an uptick in rates recently.
Okay, that makes sense. Like a lot of the factors that you gave, that makes sense. And I tell you, I thought it was just me that felt like folks couldn't drive after the pandemic. I was like, did everybody forget how to drive?
I
Because
noticed that too, yeah, because I had worked out of my office still throughout the pandemic, and then once it ended and everyone got back on the road, I just started to think like, wow, things have totally changed out here. So
yeah,
at
that's
first it was
crazy.
anecdotal, but then we've actually seen statistical evidence that that such a long layoff has caused an uptick in accidents. So
Okay, I sure last week I was like, I don't know what's going on, but
yeah,
it's a mess out here.
yeah,
Another question about claims.
okay.
So, in what cases could someone see a claim be denied by their auto insurance carrier?
Mm. Well, the main reason most claims are denied is in legal terms called material misrepresentation. So when you're obtaining auto insurance, you want to make sure you're giving the most accurate information at the time when you take out your insurance. What happens is a lot of people, especially our people, think it's okay to say, all right, well, I'll get it at my mama house because it'll be cheaper here when I actually live over here. So then now at the time of application, that may work and you can go ahead and get insurance in a different location. But at the time of a claim, if everything in your life says you live in one other location, but your auto insurance says you lives here, then they have a right to deny your claim because you materially misrepresented yourself at the time of application. So
That's
that
deep.
yes, so that's the main thing. You want to make sure you're giving them the most accurate information. A lot of times people feel I need to get my insurance as cheap as possible, but this is what I tell people all the time when they tell me that when they'll say, "Well, can I just use this address or can I just say this or say that?" I would say, well, you can do that, but the problem is you're going to obtain insurance for right now, but it's just a worthless piece of paper. When you actually need it, it's not going to be there for you. So what's the point of wasting your money?
All righty. Because I've definitely done that before. So I know that it's definitely a thing.
Exactly. Now you want to make sure you have all your you want to get all the right information. You want to have all your I's dotted, T's crossed. Insurance companies have gotten a lot more sophisticated, especially with the way technology has gotten. There's a lot easier.
Mhm.
When I first started the industry 27 years ago, it was real difficult to do a background check on somebody. I mean, it took months to weeks to get back information.
Mhm.
Now they can run title checks, driver's license information, they can get credit checks, they can get all of that in a click of a couple of buttons. So it's real easy to be able to put together a portfolio to say, hey, based upon what you told us and based upon what we can actually verify, this information doesn't match up, so we can deny your claim.
Yep, and I'll tell you, one particular company, I'm not gonna say the name. I tried to. I wasn't living with my fiance at the time, but I was planning on it, and I called myself gonna go ahead and move my insurance to the new address because also it would be cheaper. And they were like, "No, we're gonna send this thing to the house to make sure," and it was like this long application.
Yeah,
I was like, but they knew immediately, like, that you don't really live there, So.
Right, and a lot of times insurance companies are able to get this information up front and deny it at the time of application. So if you do see that, where if insurance company comes to you and say, "Hey, we're asking for additional information," at that point that's where you can come back and, like in your situation, you could have explained it and it could have gotten approved based upon what you said. It just going to a little bit more further information because that was a legitimate situation. But if you don't have that ability to do it that way, you have to give them the right information or else they can't deny it.
I love it. So there are a lot of folks like myself that don't understand why my rate is so high. We don't understand, I've not had any accidents, not had any tickets in a very, very long time. Is there any way for us, like, of course, we can pull our credit report, right? So if we're denied for credit or we, get a higher rate than we expect, we have the right to pull our credit report or even ask for that company to, send us a copy of the credit report if we're denied. Do we have that same option when it comes to insurance to understand how it is that our rate is being determined, or if we've been denied, to get more information as to why?
Yes, that's what works. The reason why I recommend people to work with an actual insurance representative instead of just doing it yourself online. Because then for example, I'm working with somebody, I can, if I'm seeing things on the application that I know is factoring in to make their rate higher, I can give them steps to mitigate it, to make changes to get it lower. As opposed to if you just do it yourself online, based upon the information that you're putting in, you may not be giving yourself the most accurate rating doing that. And then also too, I can give people further information, say, okay, for right now, this is the reason why your rate is so high. If you take these steps, now you should be seeing the reduction going forward if you follow these particular reasons. So one of the main factors that go in is still, at the end of the day, driving record factors into it. If you're no tickets or accidents. Now, insurance companies look at a certain period a year. For the most part, things are surchargeable within the 3-year period, but they still look at towards even 5 years, going back to say how many claims or accidents you have within that 5-year period. Those things matter for things like discounts and different tier pricing placements that they give you. So that's one thing they'll look at. The other thing is your age, how long you've been driving. That's something that's new that's come out now. A lot of times we're seeing a lot of people now, they don't get their driver's license at 16, or let's say, for example, in Tennessee, we're seeing a lot of people coming over from the East Coast where they haven't had the opportunity to drive much.
Yeah.
So they've only had a driver's license for like 3 years. So now they're rating them as somebody's only had the driver's license for 3 years as opposed to a 35-year-old. So that was a case I had recently. So those are factors that come into place. Obviously, where you live, what type of car you have.
One other thing I hear is an issue is if you've let coverage lapse.
Yes. I was just getting ready to get to that. Yeah.
Okay. Tell me about that, because that's interesting to me.
Right. That's one of the main things insurance companies look at, is that you have current insurance prior to obtaining insurance. So my advice to everybody is you want to get with the company, you want to try to stay with them for as long as you can. Because that's another thing insurance companies look at, which sounds hypocritical, but it's true. They don't like people to jump around from company to company, even though they do want your business. But they want to see that you've had a stable period of having insurance and you haven't had any lapses during that time, and that you haven't put any claims or accidents in. So then from at that point, then you start seeing consistently you're going to start getting better quotes. But if you're the type of person where you go to one company for 6 months, then you go to another company, then another company, you have a lapse for a couple of weeks, then you pick up insurance, and you keep falling into that pattern, you're always going to see consistently higher insurance rates because typically you're looked at as a higher risk.
Okay, that's good to know. I tell you, I let my coverage lapse intentionally because my car was in the shop, for a long time. And I was like, I'm not going to pay for this insurance if I'm not driving the car for months, and I found that hurt me, and it was,
And right, and see, like if anybody finds himself in that situation, that's why you want to work with a representative because we can advise you what's your best options. Like for example, in your situation, there's a number of different things you could have did. You could have put your car as suspension coverage, which would have suspended the policy, whereas the policy would have still stayed in force, but you wouldn't have to pay anything. That's always the best scenario. It's a very easy fix. I talked to tons of people in this situation, and I always feel bad to say, I wish you would have contacted me or another representative who could have told you that you suspended your policy, then your policy would stay in force, and when you needed your insurance again, you could have reinstated it. Also, in Tennessee, there's, at least with my company I represent, we have what's called a drive any car policy. So let's say, for example, you find yourself without insurance, like your car's broke down, you don't have insurance, but you want to still maintain a policy. We can write you a policy that will cover you in the event you are driving anybody else's car so that you still maintain coverage and you don't have any gaps during the time where you don't actually personally own the vehicle. And that's very inexpensive. So you want to always work with a qualified insurance representative who can advise you, just like anything else, just like with doctors. You don't want to self-diagnose yourself, go to WebMD or things like that. You want to actually go see a doctor. You don't want to get legal advice from the guy on the street. You want to talk to a lawyer. Same thing with insurance matters. You want to talk to a licensed insurance agent who can give you good advice.
Man, I have learned some things in a short amount of time.
Well, I'm glad to have this opportunity. I want to be able to help people because, again, I always get people on the back end where they're coming to me and they're upset because they're like, wow, I want to get lower insurance rates. Why are my rates so high? And I always say, I'm grateful for this opportunity to be able to reach people and maybe give them tips to help them and say, hey, look, these are things we could do to help get you on better plans consistently going forward.
I love it. This was wonderful. I have one last question.
Sure.
In deciding between liability and full coverage insurance, and what tips you can give us. Let's just say, I think a lot of folks assume if their car is older, then they should go ahead and just switch to liability. In that case, does it make sense to still have a full coverage policy, or are there cases where it makes sense to just make sure that you're covered, for anyone that you may hit?
Yes and yes. And that's where it depends on the individual. A lot of times when I'm counseling people about this, a lot of times I'll look and say, okay, what type of car do you have? If you have like a 1998 Ford Festiva, you're not going to have very much value in that car. It's not going to be worth much. If it's total, you're not going to get much out of it. So the money that you're putting into insuring it you're not going to recoup it. But let's say, for example, you have a 2010 Ford Explorer. Especially right now, we talked at the beginning about with used car prices going up. A lot of older cars, even 10 to 15-year-old cars, are maintaining their value. So a lot of time, and then also too, consequently, because it's a 10-year-old vehicle, it costs a lot less to insure it than it would a newer car. So you may have a situation where the value of that car is maybe $3,400, $4,000. I'm just throwing numbers out there. These aren't actual terms, but they're normally within that range. But to insure it may only cost you about $400 to $500 per year to add the full coverage. So in that situation, I'll say to somebody, well, you have to determine if it's worth it to you to spend the extra $400 to $500 to get full coverage for the year in the event that something happens to your car, that you're going to get $3,500 to $4,000 to help get you another car. A lot of times for some people, that does make a big difference. If you look at it and say, hey, if I can just, make that investment in the full coverage, I can recoup it back. So that's where, again, I normally will outlay that to a customer to say, based on the Kelley Blue Book, we'll look at, online tools, things like that, to get an idea what the value of the car is. And then I'll say, liability may only cost you $85 for just liability, but for full coverage, you're at $125. So now you're at $40 a month. But in the event something happens, you're getting, $4,500 in order to go get a new car. Then I leave it to the customer to make that determination if it's worth it to them to do it.
I love it. This was very, very helpful. And what I really gathered is that you need an agent. And you need someone who you can talk to and ask your individual questions about your individual situation. So,
Correct.
Jeff, what is the best way for folks to reach you?
Well, numbers right there on the screen. You can reach me at 629-237-9453. You can also reach me on the web at www.jeffflowers.net. It has my email, direct office contact information on there. Reach out to me, definitely. I mean, even as far as obviously, I want to try to bring customers on and get business for my agency, but I'm also here to help people. If you have questions, I'm always giving advice to customers as best I can, or people I don't know, because again, having the opportunity to be able to educate our people about insurance is, I do find this to be a great resource. I'm glad you're putting this together, and I'm glad I have the opportunity to do it.
Well, I'm super excited to have you. I tell you, just in this short Q&A, I learned a lot, and I'm sure the folks that are tuned in learned a lot as well. Again, insurance is just a very intricate thing, and a lot of times we're just trying to figure it out on our own when we do have resources that are here to help us.
Correct.
And I'm honored to have you, Jeff, as one of those resources for our community. So if you are looking for a policy for your home or your car, Jeff is here to help you. If you just want someone to look over your policy and do a policy review for you, Jeff is here to help you. You got the number 629-237-9453. Also, jeffflowers.net. You can reach him there. That'll take you directly to his page for you to reach out and learn more about how he can help you with your home and auto insurance needs. Thank you again, Jeff. It was a pleasure having you, and we learned a lot from you today.
No problem, Danielle. And keep the questions coming. At some point, we need to talk about property and renters and home insurance. Those are definitely important coverages people need.
Next month, let's do it.
Let's do it.
Fantastic. I'm excited. I'll see you next month.
All right, sounds good.
All right.